Salutations, Pluto and Scorpio, generation of it.
Okay. Hi, everyone. I come from a long line of strong, independent women. My mother established her own law firm. My grandmother raised 3 kids. My great-grandmother created her own catering business. And I'd like to think that I'm growing to become a strong, independent woman myself as well. It feels like a torch that's being passed on, a fire sparked through each generation. I'm so beyond proud to be the next. There's just one problem. The world despises us. It's a hard pill to swallow, and I've had it fed to me bit by bit. I first realized in kindergarten. I know, for those of you that can see me today, it might not seem like a long time ago, but it was. And it left a lasting impression on me. Because you see, I was that kid, the overachiever, the type A student, the girl that would finish her reading log 3 weeks in advance, the girl that would raise her hand every time the teacher asked a question and then raise it a bit in the air so she would make sure the teacher could see her. I know, a bit annoying, but I was a hard worker and I was confident. I read the books, I knew the answers, it was just who I was. One day, though, I was in a group project. We had to construct an imaginary animal. Ours was an antstrich, a combination of an ant and an ostrich, if you're wondering. And I was instructing my groupmates on how to glue gun its legs. I heard one groupmate whisper to the other, "She's so bossy." To be honest, I was shocked and I was hurt. I didn't know people thought of me like that. I thought I was just doing my own thing, trying to get a good grade. I didn't realize people disliked me for it. I felt like I was hated for just trying to do my best. And as I grew up, devouring history and books and fiction, I realized that this is a really common pattern. Whenever women are in power, they're bossy, ambitious, over-controversial. When men are in the same position, they're role models, driven, assertive. Obviously, my example was kind of trivial, and I was definitely a bit annoying, but this happens on so many different degrees. Really, it dates back to hundreds of years ago. In ancient Greece, for example, with Circe, who was called a witch for turning the men who raped her into pigs. In ancient Egypt, with Cleopatra, a very rare female pharaoh who was seen as a seductress and a control freak. Or now, in modern-day America, with Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama, AOC, who all have their share of controversies, but are always scrutinized more and always have more hurdles simply because they're powerful women. Or even in pop culture, Taylor Swift, who is literally a trend to hate, Yoko Ono, who is still being blamed for a whole group of adult men's actions, or Britney Spears, who was a recent survival of intense societal misogyny. Because the truth is, as much as it hurts to admit, powerful women have always been villainized. This means 2 things. First is that powerful women are shamed into being weak. Because personally, I was embarrassed. After Bossygate, I toned down my bossiness, my ambition, and it is so easy to second-guess yourself as a woman. It's something I'll always regret, shifting who I was, watering myself down for the sake of society's comfort. But it doesn't mean that there are no powerful women. Of course, women persevere, women fight. I've changed, I've accepted who I am. The bigger problem that happens is that these powerful women aren't seen. I remember studying national heroes in Indonesian history class. We had to memorize 20 different national heroes, all of them who have served our country with respect and honor, who blazed a path for independence, all who have monuments dedicated in their honor. All of them men. And I asked my teacher, why don't we study a few women? Why don't we mix it up? Why don't we have any women national heroes that we're studying in class? The teacher didn't really have an answer. Because this is the educational norm. In school curriculums with teachers and students, even in dining tables with parents and children, powerful women are often left out of the conversation. This creates catastrophic effects, because when powerful women are hated, the only way they are valued is when they are submissive. There are so many ways to explain this or explain why it happens, but I found the best way is through myth. Ancient Greeks believed humans once had 4 arms, 4 legs, and 2 heads. But fearing their power, the gods split them into 2, condemning them to spend the rest of their lives searching for their other halves, to finally be complete. But let's modify that myth a little bit. After all, we're in Indonesia, not ancient Greece, and in Indonesia, the man is not half of himself. He is not longing, he is not searching, he is already complete. The women, however, are a completely different story. Perhaps to compensate for her partner's lack of wanting, her entire life's purpose is finding her other half. She is longing, she is searching, she is incomplete. This imbalance has nothing to do with biology and everything to do with society. Because Indonesian women are forced to believe in a fairy tale. One where to get the happy ending they are told to crave, rings must be worn and vows must be exchanged. They are told that marriage is a prize. They are told that marriage is a purpose. So much so that people are willing to sacrifice anything to force women to get it. Indonesia has had a long, long battle against child marriages. According to UNICEF, before 2019, 1 in 4 Indonesian girls were pushed to marry before they turned 18. Indonesia has also had a long, long battle with domestic violence, and the pandemic, unfortunately, has only exacerbated those harms. Oftentimes, women are pressured by friends and family to stay in these abusive marriages because divorce is taboo. At the core of this issue is what every burgeoning society seems to struggle with. Many of our societal institutions are rooted in patriarchy. The household, for example, where, and I'm speaking very generally here, men are expected to be breadwinners and women are expected to stay at home. This also is often dated back to the institution of colonialism, which has had a long history of repressing women's freedoms for the sake of creating societal hierarchies. There's so many possible answers, so many threads that I can trace back, but these are uncertain questions with uncertain answers. What we know for sure is the impact this brings, because it trickles down from big issues to small lives. I grew up having to learn self-defense out of fear of sexual harassment. I grew up walking down the streets with headphones on out of fear of strange men talking to me. I'm a powerful woman who, like so many others, have been taught to be afraid. Because put quite simply, Indonesia, like the majority of the global community, has deep patriarchal roots that haven't been eradicated. Okay, maybe that wasn't so simple. But the point is, women are silenced. We are constantly on the defense that we can't be on the offense. We are told we cannot be powerful. And then the perennial question becomes, how do we fix this? How do we eradicate those roots? My answer is that we need more powerful women to be seen. And we need them starting from the very top. Which brings me to the world that women need to infiltrate: politics. I know. This starts to raise a lot of different questions, whens and whats and whos. Let me answer them. The one I get most often by my fellow countrymen is why? They say, do we really? Haven't we already had a female president? I say, yeah, Ibu Megawati. But that is exactly the point, because the hubris that Indonesia has in using Ibu Mega or other female politicians and proving that they are equal to women is what lessens the visibility of the problem. These are amazing women, but they are still a rarity. We need more, and we need to talk about them more. And then I say all of the wonderful things that women have done for Indonesia. And there's so many examples to reach for here. Sri Mulyani, for example, our current Minister of Finance, the first Indonesian to be the managing director of the World Bank, credited with severely strengthening the Indonesian economy and steering Southeast Asia through the global financial crisis. Or Chuknyak Dien, who was a leader of the Achenese guerrilla forces during the Aceh War. After her husband died, she led guerrilla actions against the Dutch for 25 years, and she was heralded as a national hero in 1964. Or lastly, Raden Ajeng Kartini. At the young age of 24, under Dutch colonial rule, she started a school for 10 girls who didn't have access to any sort of education. She channeled her own privilege as a noble to gain feminist knowledge and utilize connections. She sent reforms, letters, and protests to the government for equal education. She once wrote, and I absolutely love this quote, "All our tears now will help form the seed from which flowers will one day bloom for the next generation." I hope she's right. It is these women, and so much more, that I wish we could have learned about in school. And finally, I say, imagine all the things that they could do now. Policies that help women. For example, a clear bill that encapsulates all types of sexual assault, or more hotlines and police departments dedicated to helping domestic violence victims, or more female perspective that just brings so much to the table, because it shifts the understanding of how law can be utilized to protect women. It can genuinely change lives. More women being at the seat of power is something that would create rapid change in any society. In a place that hates powerful women so much, isn't this, with positive changes being created, the way to really show how amazing powerful women are? Isn't this where we show how else women can be valued? But the second question, and the one that is much, much harder to answer, is how? Because it's so easy to say more and more without asking why and how. That second word, how, was the roadblock that I experienced. I knew we needed more women. I knew why we needed more women. I just didn't know how. There have been so many answers to this. First of all, quotas. Currently, a 30% female quota is required for any political party within their list of legislative candidates. But results from the 2010 and 2014 elections show they're not actually elected. Only 20% of the House are women. This is a small incremental boost from the previous term's 17%. So, yeah, quotas work. We have 20% of women in the House, but it's not as much as we need them to. I think the answer lies in the individual. First and foremost, women. We need more women running. But this is so much harder than it sounds. And it's so much harder to just tell a woman you should run for office. Because the entire world, from mythical legends to classmates to your own family, tell us that men are supposed to take charge and women are just supposed to step back. It's a cognitive dissonance for women. When all our lives we are taught to be convenient, it is unthinkable to create an uproar, to do something unexpected, to be inconvenient. I'm here to tell these women that it's okay to break the glass ceiling. I'm talking to the women that have been called controversial, bossy, ambitious. Forget all of that. You are you. You are a future leader. Secondly, voters. Because even when women run, oftentimes they're not elected. It's easier for voters to get wrapped up in the societal perceptions that are told to them as well. And even when voters do vote for women, there are perceptions of women in politics that try to fit them into a box even more. Researchers Huddy and Tickleton noticed that female candidates are better seen as being better equipped to discuss compassion issues, women's issues, education, healthcare, social welfare, civil liberties. Men are viewed as better on issues such as military and defense and foreign policy and the economy. This obviously isn't true. Both can talk about the other. But it can be so easy to drown in the voices of the opposition and the societal narratives that are taught to you since you were a little kid. But women are capable. Women are strong. And powerful women should be heralded as the change makers that they are. As voters, it is our duty to remember this. But honestly, I don't think I can come up with a perfect answer. For once, I am not rapidly answering the question the teacher asked, because I don't think a 15-minute speech can answer problems so deeply ingrained in our society. But I do think we can start thinking about it. Because every single change of action, every single change in our history has been lit by the very, very smallest of fires. The fight for women's education started with 10 girls, led by Kartini. The fight for freedom started with a group of 20-year-olds in the Pledge of the Youth. And the fight for a future, it starts with every one of us. If we want to change the future, we have to do it ourselves. I think we can. I think we will. And here's where I want to deal with the possibility of failure. Because sometimes women just won't get elected. Sometimes policies just won't get ratified. What happens then? What happens now? As usual, there's lots of ways to explain this, but I found the best way is through a story. I recently volunteered at a nonprofit composed of lawyers who help women with domestic violence cases. There, over the course of a couple months, I was exposed to raw vulnerability. Faces frozen in perpetual fear, tear-streaked cheeks, bruised bodies. But I also saw intense resolve. After learning their options, armed by the law, I see a flame ignited. Faces sculptured by determination, eyes glinting with hope instead of tears, bodies attuned to fight instead of flight. As they start the crusade for justice, hurdles come. Husbands deny. Their cases are chipped, yet the resolve resists. Hours are dedicated to collecting testimonies. Lawyers sacrifice time to help victims through the breakdowns they inevitably experience. Some cases don't go the way they should. The jury was swayed, the gavel struck. Women lose, yet again. But in the end, no matter the outcome of the law, the grievances of justice, these women come out stronger. They're able to accept they've tried their best, able to stomach yet another injustice. The community they have built around them, volunteers and family and friends, is a blanket to soften yet another blow. Now, the bruises are a mark of survival, not weakness. After hundreds of cases, I'm left asking, when will women win? Broken systems, unfair odds, it seems hopeless. But more than anything, these women have shown me strength. It is with this unwavering resolve that the crusade for justice, for reform, persists, no matter how long it takes, because we are not afraid anymore. It is the strength and this independence that wins above all. The fire has been lit within us, and it cannot be snuffed. Thank you.